one of the things that I have experienced in New Zealand repeatedly is, well, I guess I would refer to it as bend over backwards kindness and compassion for other people. And actually being here during the pandemic and seeing all of the advertisements and publicity about COVID, it was always instilled in us to be kind to other people while we're all going through this. And so I think that's just a huge part of the culture here, at least that I've experienced. So some other ways that that's come out, I was once at a warehouse stationery store. If you're from America, it would be like a Staples. So imagine yourself at a Staples. And there was a gentleman that needed to purchase something. It was a smallish item, but he was speaking to one of the employees in the store, and when they said that they had it, he said, "Oh, I'll come back and get it. I don't have my wallet with me." And they said, No, take it with you, and next time you come around, you can pay us." Can you imagine like any Staples store in America where an employee would be like, "No problem, just like, we trust you, take it and come back the next time and pay us then." Like, I just can't imagine that. In fact, in most other places I've been, that would ever happen. And I would say maybe that's just a small town mentality. I was up in Kerikeri when that happened, but I've seen very similar things happen, even in Auckland and in larger cities. So as far as I have experienced it, it's just a New Zealand thing where people are just compassionate and trusting that you'll come back and pay if you don't have the money with you at the time, which is so, so beautiful. And I remember also I had some issues with my driver's license while I was here. I was never planning to be in New Zealand so long, so my US license expired while I was here because I thought I would be back in the US to renew it long before that became a problem. And so because it expired, it was no longer valid as a form of identification for me to convert the license to a New Zealand one. So I went into the AA, actually, and if you're American, I get a chuckle because I'm always going into the AA for the Automobile Association. So if you're American, you might be chuckling. If you're not American, you're like, huh? But that's okay. Anyway, so I would go in there and they needed the secondary form of ID. I had a passport, but this expired license was no good. And of course, the secondary ID that I needed would be like an electricity bill, proof of residence, all of these, a work visa, like, all these things that I just don't have. So, and also is just not possible for me to get. So every time that I would go into the AA, the first time I went in there, there's a line of people behind me, and the woman who's helping me is like, I think she spent at least 10 minutes with me trying to ask, what about this? What about that? She called some number and got a case number opened, and she tried with that person to brainstorm, what could I do? And then when we didn't find the answer, she gave me the case number and the phone number and said, maybe you gave me a couple suggestions and suggested I call them back with the case number. And I think it took about 3 different times, but eventually that process paid off and I was able to convert my license. But, it was, I was just so touched that people went so out of their way for me. I mean, I'm used to a lot of the time, my experience in other places, especially where I'm from, is often, yeah, sorry, that's just not in my job description. It's not what I do. It's not, I just need to set your expectations. We don't do that here. I don't know where you can get that help, but good luck. So this was just a whole other level of helpfulness and compassion that I'm not used to. And I just so appreciate every moment that I'm here. There's just another instance of that kindness and compassion. Another cool thing that I'm not used to, of course, from a big city, I know some people that are from smaller towns have seen this perhaps, but everywhere in New Zealand you have these, it's really cool, there's these book cases. So I've seen them as like a converted phone booth, or just a little like a box where people put their used books, and you can donate one of your used books and take one of those used books. And in other places like Raglan, I saw this, just an area with like bookcases and shelves where people would just, you know, donate an item, take an item. So not just books, but other things. So this idea of like the donation box, that's not a secondhand shop. It's just right there out in the open, and you can just help yourself to what you need and give something. So I love that idea of the reciprocation. And finally, I've seen in a lot of places where people just on the side of the road, they might put fruit or flowers or something that they have made or gotten from their garden, and they'll leave it by the side of the road, and it'll just say, you know, flowers like $2 each, or take a bag of the fruit for $3, and just trust that you will take that and leave the money. And everyone does. And again, that's so touching, and especially for someone that's from a big city and hasn't, to me, although I understand that New Zealand is a small nation of 5 million, it's still just not something that I expected, and just adds to the loveliness of the country. So that's it for today's story. If you liked it, hit the like button. And if you're not a subscriber yet, please hit subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next video.